Yes, Eugene, can you see me? Hello?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now, but I can't see you.
I was, okay, you can see me?
Yes, I can see you.
I was on the mute and trying to set up.
We may need to get you a new banner with the One Africa Network.
Yeah, I'm thinking, yeah. That one you have, it looks good. I think now you've straightened it up nicely.
It's looking much better.
Yeah, that's better now.
Yeah.
So you can't see the TV at the back and the...
No.
Yeah.
How was your day?
Very hectic, man.
Mm.
Too many things going on, trying to catch up, even you run out of time.
Yeah. Did you manage to send Rochelle the video?
No, I need even to send her a message to thank her.
Okay.
But I couldn't. Hopefully I'll do it after this talk.
Mm. Maybe we need to have another chat regarding the events, because I think what she presented was more or less like a keynote or like insights or something like that, so that instead of having the panel discussions, we could have one person who has an interesting subject that they want to share, whether it's part of their research or work experience, something like that.
Yeah, I think I think different people have different way to present.
Mm.
And probably it's maybe she modified what she uses for some of the talk she's doing.
Yeah, because I've seen that presentation of hers before. It's basically it's part of her long-term work is really in that, part of her research is really in that space.
Yeah, the gig economy, which actually now is a top, top agenda. So she must be.
Because when I first saw her work, she was talking about it before COVID, and it was just like a fancy thing. But now with COVID, she's in the game.
No, yeah, she was telling me how now she get calls from everywhere, like Malaysia, everywhere.
Yeah, and those are the benefits of your research. If you've been researching stuff and people will need you. There are no shortcuts.
I think, of course, you have to. It's like hitting a jackpot. It's like if it comes at the right time.
Yes. That's why you have to be passionate. So, do we have confirmation of the speakers?
Yeah, I did contact all of them during the day. One, apart from one who was saying that he has a running meeting that is running late. He will kindly join, or if not. But
okay.
Three of them have confirmed.
That's okay, because we know that the fewer the better in terms of interaction. So we should be good. How is Ruth?
Ruth. She's okay. She's just going to pick what's his name? Our operation manager.
Yes. Oh, get rid of the subtitles.
How do you do that?
I don't know how you did it last time. I can see Cecil. Hi, Cecil. Cecil, can you hear us? I think you're on mute.
Hey, Dennis, Eugene, how's it going?
Not too bad. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thanks. Very good. How are your days going?
Busy, getting busier.
Getting busier.
I think lockdown is not a good situation because now you do more.
Well, it depends how you set your boundaries, right?
No, because now it's the old norm of 9 to 5 or the office. When you're at home, even at night, you wake up at 2 o'clock, you just start to do some work. Send email and
Well, yeah,
weekend sometime I do catch up.
Eugene,
yeah.
I'm requesting for remote control to see if I can get rid of the subtitles because they are not accurate usually.
I've tried to remove them before, but
I didn't know you could have subtitles on Zoom. I
Yeah.
thought it was just Google Hangouts.
No, Eugene's always brings up subtitles, but sometimes it talks about something that's completely different from what people
Oh,
are
yeah.
talking about.
Oh yeah. They're never accurate. Even on the TV, like I don't think there's ever even there isn't accurate. I don't think it's gonna happen as well because people have different accents, don't they?
Try accessibility. Eugene, try in the accessibility at the bottom. No, that's not the one.
yeah. No, this is starts.
It must be in audio, surely. No. Your last shot is in general. No.
Video, no.
Go to advanced on the bottom right.
No. No. I can't see them. Cecil, just a few minutes. We'll wait for the rest of the to join, and then we can just start now.
Yeah, sure. I think you need to do it from your the web account console.
Oh, you
It's
have to
not.
go inside the
Yeah,
account.
on the web. Yeah, it's called closed captioning.
I can't see any subtitles.
It says closed captioning instead of not subtitles. In the settings icon, closed captions.
So I'll go to setting and then where?
It should be there. Closed captions should say it.
Closed caption.
Oh, Eugene,
Yeah?
I did realize I was on mute all this time. Could you move chats from attendees to panelists?
Oh,
Sorry, I've been on mute. I've been trying to rectify the issue, but I didn't realize I was on mute all this time. Oh, there we are. Hi, Chucks. You are on mute. If you could unmute and probably put your video on.
can't see him on the screen.
I can see him on the screen, but I cannot see, there's no picture, there's no video, we can't hear him.
Or you can see him on the screen.
Yeah, he's on the screen, but he is not.
Ah, okay.
Can you make me co-host? And oh, there we are.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, yeah.
Finally, we have liftoff. Hi, everyone.
How are you?
Hey, chicks.
Good. Very well, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Just 1 minute, I think we start.
My pleasure.
The rest can join us.
Sure.
I'll get myself a cup of coffee as well. I think seeing Chuck's drinking has given me some thirst. Let me get myself some water also.
I'm never too far away from some liquid. It's green tea, by the way. That's my poison of choice.
Green tea. Chucks, where are you joining from?
London.
Oh, you're in London.
Yes, I am. Yeah, sunny London, if you'd imagine that. It's quite sunny.
It's very sunny, just a little bit of water.
Oh, really?
A little bit of water, I like that.
I think Admire and Emmanuel are running late, but we can just start in the interest of time, and I can see people joining. So probably.
Sure.
So if you can see my screen, so let's just start and then in the interest of time. So thank you so much for joining us and everybody who is on the line and to join One Africa Network discussion, focusing mainly on the business in the connected world, looking at digital operation and transformation. Before we start, just a bit of housekeeping. I'll be muting everyone so to minimize disruption and also to make sure we have a smooth discussion. So today I'm your host. My name is Eugene. For those who doesn't know me, I'm the co-founder and CEO for SSG Consulting, and I'm also the chair for One Africa Network. In addition to that, I'm the interim chair and the president for African Business Chamber based in Birmingham. Today I'm supported by my partner at SSG, Dennis Aguma, and he's also a co-chair for One Africa Network and a lecturer at the Birmingham City University on the entrepreneurship ecosystem. So before I start, probably just introduce a bit about One Africa for those who are new to the discussion. So One Africa is a membership-based social development organization that focuses on issues that affect Black and African businesses, entrepreneurs, and professionals within the UK. But since COVID-19 now, we've expanded. We have members and we are engaging audience across the world, including Africa. So we mainly focus on entrepreneurship, innovation, excellence, inclusiveness, and sustainable economic growth. And some of the work we do mainly at the moment is focusing on research, advocacy, consulting, and capacity development on various topical issues ranging from policy, economy, business growth, innovation, technology, STEM industry, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, creative and culture industries. So those are some of the key areas we focus on, and we engage our audience and members in various ways, including this, live discussion panels, networking events, um, seminars, and other activities. So over the uh, so over the last few months and since we launched in 2018, we have been fortunate to host quite a lot of speakers from various walk of life. So just because our name is called One Africa Network, we don't normally engage Africans. So we have members from and speakers from different society who come and share the expertise and thoughts and insights in terms of on some of the topical issue we focus on. And a majority of the recent discussion has been mainly focusing on COVID-19, and we are fortunate to be supported by Innovate UK, who's been supporting some of the program in terms of supporting BME communities who've been affected by COVID-19. Mainly, we are working with the businesses, professionals, entrepreneurs, helping them to transform, realign themselves as they recover and reposition themselves into the new normal or the current normal, we will call it. So today our discussion is focused on business in the connected world. I'm sure everyone who's been working remotely, they know now they appreciate the importance of digitization and the technology, which has shaped the business world, service delivery, engagement, communication, everything in the last 4 months, as most of the business and the community were in lockdown. So we have a few topics on the agenda we're going to look at over the next 1 hour and a half, and hopefully our speakers will help us to break down some of the topics and inspire us or share their thoughts and the perspective on the issues or areas that we aim to cover today. And to answer some of these topics and questions, I'm delighted to be joined by Admire. He's running late, but he'll be joining us soon. He's the managing director at the Goldman Sachs, and but today he's not speaking on behalf of Goldman Sachs, but he's speaking on behalf of a venture advisor, which is a strategy, growth, and hacking and consulting firm. Also, we'll be joined by Emmanuel Dosu, who's also running late. Hopefully, they'll be able to join us. However, we are delighted to have Cecil joining us again from, he's the UK managing partner from Iberas Technologia, and also director for Fundaline. So hopefully he'll be able to tell us more about the organization, what they do. And finally, we have Chooks Anochi, who's a managing consultant on the business and digital transformation at Capgemini, if I pronounce it correctly. So just without wasting time, probably let me just give 1 or 2 minutes for them to introduce themselves. So I start with Cecil to give just a bit of introduction in terms of who he is, what he does before we go to Chooks, and then we can now get into our discussion while we wait for other speakers to join.
Yeah, thank you. And it's a pleasure to be here, Eugene and Dennis. Thanks for the invitation. So my name is Cecil Agelo. I'm a managing director at Iberus, which is a technology company building software and doing tech consulting for businesses, medium to large size. So we've got companies like Santander and Alliance Healthcare who own Boots, and IAG who own British Airways. And we help them solve their problems using technology, whether it's developing websites, developing apps, developing integrations, doing analytics, a whole load of stuff that we do. We're 900 worldwide, and we have offices all the way from Miami to Bucharest. So that's my full-time role. On the side, I do some work with Foundervine. So I'm one of the people on the founding team of Foundervine, and we build startups from scratch, usually tech startups or startups that are highly scalable. And we usually look for people from underrepresented backgrounds, so Black, ethnic minority people, and also women. We put them together and we get them to build startups that address problems in our society or have really exciting offerings. And to date, we've created about 73 startups, and we also have an accelerator where we've accelerated 47 or so businesses. And there's a lot more to come this year with COVID. It hasn't really stopped us, and there's a lot of work to do and a lot of opportunity here. I see, really. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Thanks, Cecil, and welcome to the discussion panel. So next I have Chooks. Chooks, if you can briefly introduce yourself and give a bit overview.
Sure.
We
Sure.
can't
Thanks,
see-
Eugene. And it's really good to be here. Sunny day in London. My name is Chooks Anochie. I'm proudly Nigerian, proudly African. I work for Capgemini. I'm one of the managing consultants in their digital strategy and transformation side. We focus mainly on digital transformation, but we cover quite a huge array of different functions and areas. Top 10 consulting firms, they don't really need an introduction. What I'd like to focus on is sort of what I do. And my focus is mainly on digital transformation, from enterprise agility to enterprise DevOps adoption, trying to help organizations future-proof their operations, future-proof the organizations for the digital world. More recently, I've been helping organizations look at their API strategy to build a more connected workspace, a more connected workforce, and a more connected ecosystem to help them digital transformation from enterprise here. In my time, if I do have any, I'm doing a doctorate in business administration at DBA, which focuses on some of the challenges in digital transformation. And I also mentor and do research for organizations like the World Bank and other organizations which I can't mention. But my focus is on digital transformation, digital strategy, and trying to help organizations go from I'm confused, I don't know what to do with all this that's happening here. I see companies like Amazon, Facebook. I don't know them, and taking them to a place that is bringing in the right revenue for them, but making sure that they digital proof their options.
Okay. Welcome, Chooks, and thank you for that brief introduction. I can see Adma is on the line. And Adma, if you can hear me, please mute yourself and welcome to our discussion. How are you?
I'm very well. Hi,
Right.
my apologies for joining a bit late.
No problem.
Okay, glad to be here and having this conversation with you guys. My background is in investment banking, particularly within business strategy and technology. But today I will be speaking as a fintech advisor, something that I do on the side to help fintechs accelerate and launch their businesses. But full time I work for JP Morgan. Again, in a similar capacity.
Welcome to the discussion and thank you for joining us. So the first question, of course, we have, as we all know, we are within the COVID-19 context, and the digitization and technology has taken the center stage. I don't know if we probably start to admire in terms of what's your perspective in terms of how COVID-19 has accelerated the digital transformation, adoption, and the digital economy. If I give a context, probably even myself as an engineer, I've been working with a few clients to help them with transformation. But some of them were a bit taking slow steps and planning like 10 years, but somehow they were forced to adopt technology. How has been your experience? What's your thought? What has been from your side?
So I think COVID aside, and with the unfortunate consequences it has resulted into, it has also kind of like provided a benefit to what most of us have been saying, and I'm sure to a lot of my colleagues who are here on the platform. For firms and people who had what we call digital inertia, it has proved that the digital capabilities have been ready. The landscape had been available for years, and it was just a mindset of individuals and corporations to quickly adopt it and accelerate it. So on the whole, from a workforce and digital transformation perspective, I think it has been a necessary shock. It has proved what should have been done years back. Unfortunately, some businesses might not recover from this, but those that had positioned themselves very well are doing very well out of this whole crisis. So, from a purely digital perspective, I think it is a welcome shock.
Okay. Sorry, I have an extra audience here. So, in terms of the changes we've seen, where do you see the opportunities and challenges? I know majority of your work is mainly focused on the corporate world. In terms of the digital transformation, how do you see the situation move in the next few, in the short term and long term, and some of the challenges and opportunities?
So I think what we need to be very clear of is defining what digital is, because digital means a lot of things to different people. From my perspective, digital is the convergence of the people, the technology, and the process. So it's the bringing up together of all those elements. So it is just not purely a technology play on its own. And to drive digital going forward, one has got to look at what I'll call operational innovation. That's where the focus should be and must be. And then using technology tools to optimize your business processes. So if there's anyone who is in a small startup or small business type environment, what I'll be encouraging them to do at the moment is to rehash their business processes and look at ways they can innovate their processes, cutting the slack, and then looking at how technology can help them to achieve that and go. I mean, look at Uber, look at Amazon, look at Facebook. Those guys did not really invent any new technology, but what they did was to disrupt processes, i.e. way of doing things using new technology. And this is what we need to be thinking about, whether you're a restaurant or whether you are you're in health, or whether you're in travel business, all over the whole spectrum. It is to go back to the drawing board and say, hey, what is the business processes and how can I innovate for me to remain relevant going into the future?
Thank you so much. I know, of course, some lack of the slow speed in the technology adoption has caused some casualties, and some of them we know, like Primark has been one of the casualties in terms of they failed to adopt technology in advance, and during COVID-19 they had shut down. That's one example, but there's quite a lot of companies who are on standstill because of lack of the technology capability. So if I go to Cecil, from your side, what has been the situation on your side, looking at some of the clients you work with? I know you work with a client from the SME to mid-cap to corporate. How has been the experience in terms of COVID-19?
Yeah, it's really varied, I would say, Eugene. And, I'm stressing on Admire's point that some companies have gone through it really well, and you know, it's actually changed them for the better. And some companies have failed miserably. One of my clients in the UK, a luxury fashion store, they're based in Mayfair, and they sell to the most famous people in this country, and extremely high-end products. And I was consulting with them just before January, and talking about, you know, changing their technology to make them more efficient. They had a very archaic way of looking at their business. They thought that being customer centric meant that they have to avoid using technology to interact with their customers. So they had a website, but they hadn't really put a lot of thought into how to proactively promote themselves and earn more money through it. Anyway, the crisis has come, and they have gone into administration, right? Because oh, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear. Can you hear us?
So we can hear you.
I think. Hi, Ceci. Oh, I think we lost him. Chooks, can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Else,
Yes, we
for
can.
some reason.
Hello, can you hear us? Ah, we lost him. Chooks, maybe let's go to.
I think I can hear Chooks. Is that?
Chicks is on mute, so you can't possibly be hearing him, unless our Zoom has been bombarded by some.
Sorry, can I leave and join it again? Is that all right?
We can hear you now.
Okay.
Hi, Chooks, can you hear us?
Eugene, I think he said he's going to leave and then join us again.
Probably you can go to Chooks in the meantime while Cecil is joining. Chooks, can you hear us? I think Chooks can hear us also. Probably let's continue the Adima, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys.
Okay, let's continue with you. So in terms of your discussion, if you go to the third question, probably from your perspective, for individual companies that are looking to develop their digital journey strategy, and of course realign their operation models, what would you recommend would be the best practice, taking into consideration how the technology transformation and the advancements is moving very fast? And also,
Sorry, guys, I'm back now.
Awesome.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. His Zoom just went mad, and I heard something else, and I couldn't hear you anymore. But yeah, sorry. Do you want to finish the point, Admire, and then I can speak?
okay, yeah. Probably.
Yeah. So I'll jump in. So in terms of best way to approach digitization or thinking how you should move forward is, you know, I think it's just Chucks, right? Who is the consultant here? You would have to do what I would define as a digital inventory. Take a look at a digital inventory. By that I mean you're looking at the capabilities that you have in where you're strong. Is it the people? Is it the product? Is it the brand that you have that is strong? Look at the external environment, what is going on there, and then look at where your customers are interfacing with you, right? We know that it's omni-channel these days, various channels, and then look at then how you can reduce friction or pain points for the customer to be able to reach the customer. Because at the end of the day, it is all about delighting and exciting the customer with nearly zero friction, the Amazon experience. And once you have been able to streamline all your processes to the bone, then you look at the technology tools that can help you to get there. Because a lot of people get so hooked in on, okay, I want to have a website, I want to have this next tool. But in most cases, you might have what I'll call digital lipstick. You just apply the digital lipstick without purely digitizing in the back end to make sure that your processes are efficient and scalable as they should in the background. So that's the approach that I use, and that approach that I recommend.
So you're saying that you design your process from a customer, as you start with from the customer experience, and then you reverse engineer it as part of the system engineering.
Exactly. You are an engineer, so you understand what this actually means, right? because so the language that they would use, I'm sure that guys like CISO would use, is like customer journey. So customer journey mapping. What is the customer journey that you need to look at? And then in the background, say what processes are actually supporting the customer journey at each phase, and make sure that those are robust and tight. And not only that, but that they are scalable. They are able to grow as the volume increases and builds up. You know, technology is so ubiquitous these days. It's very, very easy to build a website. You can build a website with 50 pounds. You have a website up and running and things that happen. So it is, I call myself a process innovation evangelist. That's where I think we need to spend a lot of our time as business operators and business doers, and then have technologists come in to bolt in what is required to then excel.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Adnan. If I go back to Cecil, I think we lost you along the way, and you are explaining in terms of some of the experience with their customers, how the COVID-19 has disrupted them.
Yeah.
You can continue. So
what I was saying was that this client was that was a luxury fashion digital way was against their brand, and they are like a old school wealthy English business, and actually that wasn't the case, and because they just didn't understand how to do it, and they weren't. Sorry, I got my baby here. Making a few changes, and now they've gone into administration. And I talk about things that are as simple as collecting customer details on an online form instead of paper. I talk about things like using a barcode scanner instead of writing down things on a clipboard. People talk about digital transformation. I think there are so many businesses out there that just they're not even in a digital age, right? Any new business that starts now, they have such an advantage. They have an advantage because they're using technologies like Xero to do their accounting, or they're using Wix or WordPress to do their website, or they're using really modern database systems and not Oracle, for example. So these new businesses have an advantage over the old ones, and I've worked in both old and new, and I'm so shocked with the differences. And we'll come on to things like cybersecurity, for example, and just like processes that these businesses are using, old and new, they vary so much that they don't even look like the same type of organization. They look just totally separate beasts. And I'll give you an example. When I was at Ernst & Young, it took us 2 years to migrate our email system. At Foundervine, we migrated our email system over a weekend. And I know there's difference in the number of people and complexity, but still 2 years compared to a weekend, it's just miles apart. So yeah, COVID has really shown businesses that if you're not with it, then you're extinct. And if you are with it, then you can use that to do more.
So where do you see the opportunity coming from, and what are the challenges as part of the digital transformation journey?
Yeah, so I see opportunities a lot in connecting up different software together and automatically transferring data between systems to make them more smart and automated. And I know Chooks will be able to speak a lot more about this because he is an expert in API strategy. But my company, we build APIs for businesses, and we see that the more they connect systems, the less manpower they have to put into processes, copy and paste jobs, and interpreting paper documents, etc. If you can have a software, say for example, your CRM software, customer relationship management software, and you have intelligently connected that to your website, your e-commerce solution, or your enterprise resource planning software, intelligently connected them via APIs. This means that you're doing less work and therefore you have more time to focus on other things like how to improve your business in general, right? That I see as a significant advantage that not many people are aware of. I don't think the AI and blockchain and all of these things are going to make such a massive impact right now because the basics still haven't been sorted out. And then I see some of the threats as the amount of cybersecurity that we need to put into our solutions has increased 100 or 1,000 fold. And I think, you could see high profile arrests of cyber criminals like Hush Puppy, for example, who was an expert at, getting people to give him money through means that they didn't know they were doing via emails or via websites. And, this man had a $10,000 a month apartment in Dubai, right? He was living very healthily off cyber crime, and he's not alone. There's so many others, and we're just not aware of the risks that we face when we're online. And I have a good friend who's a managing director of a cybersecurity company in the UK, and he showed me this device called the Pineapple. And the Pineapple is really amazing because, when you go into Starbucks and you switch on your phone and it shows Starbucks connect to Wi-Fi, and then you just connect because you think that's Starbucks. The first time you do it, that could be really Starbucks, but the second time you do it, the Pineapple, which is a device, could be used to mimic Starbucks's SSID, and therefore you connect to it. And as soon as you connect to it, every single piece of information you try and exchange with any website goes through the Pineapple. And I wasn't aware of this until he showed it to me, that, hey, look, this is what's out there that can, take your data, but you won't know because sometimes your phone even automatically connects to these networks as you're walking around. If you've been there before, it connects again. So that awareness that I don't see it increasing in general in people. And it's a problem because there are smart and criminal people that want to take advantage of you. So this is a big challenge, especially with everyone working at home and doing everything online. It's definitely on the increase.
Yeah, and one thing I do see, just to touch on that, is organizations are very lazy about security, right? Even the large enterprises. I've worked for large banks, I've worked for large publishers, and when you look at the encryption culture, they rather take a shorter route to getting products out there rather than making sure that it's security compliant. And even in heavy compliance industries like banking or in other industries, even in defense, you find that they tend to avoid encryption as much as possible. And the only way to genuinely secure your data and protect that privacy for everyone is to erase it, but that's not possible. So what's the next best thing? Is to employ as much strong data encryption as possible. So some of these responsibilities lie on the enterprises and the organizations to be able to protect consumers as much as possible. We're not the experts and would never be. How are you embedding security as a strategic asset in every product or service you come out with? That's extremely important.
Chooks, if I take you back to our first and second question, I hope you managed to listen to us.
Sorry, I lost connection. Yeah.
How has been the journey from your side, your end, in terms of impact COVID-19, or in terms of working clients? I know you focus mainly on automation and the digital transformation. How has been the situation? Have you seen a rise in businesses automating most of their operation, and how has been the situation? Where do you see
So
these and challenges?
yeah. So from a cultural perspective, I've noticed that organizations are more open to the future of work and what that looks like. They're more open to remote connectivity. They're looking for ways to be able to share private and privileged data, right? And that means we're more open to migrating to the cloud. A lot of banks, a lot of security threatened organizations or highly regulated organizations tend to move away from cloud because they want to protect their data as much as possible. Now people are not physically in the offices. They have no option. They have to move to cloud. And so there is that easing and there's that appetite for taking greater risk to be able to adopt the future of working. What does the future of working look like? It's having modular architecture. It's having cloud-enabled services. It's having remote working. It's having a culture of focusing on the outcomes you want to achieve and moving away from having people physically co-located all the time. Another thing I'm seeing within that business landscape in these COVID times is retail is massively affected. So all the retail clients I know have been impacted by at least 75% of their revenue. And so now they're looking for ways they can be able to build partnerships with local businesses. A luxury brand I know based here in the UK has, in the last 3 months, stronger partner APIs to be able to connect with African and Asian local businesses to be able to shift their products quicker. Why are they doing that? Because they can no longer rely on their stores. Their stores can't be everywhere. It's going to cost you a lot of money to prop up a shop in 10 towns in Myanmar or 20 towns in Kinshasa. Or what you can do is leverage local, credible outlets to be able to transport your products to people. And so that's one of the changes I'm seeing. Organizations are being a bit more open to cloud-enabled applications. They're being a bit more open to exploring new areas of digital growth. They're being more open to the future of work.
Oh, interesting. And if we go now to the about the integration, I know working with a few clients, especially in the automotive sector, is one of the sector that is very technology driven. When we look about connectivity, like vehicle connectivity, intelligent transport systems, and all those things, how do you see the businesses can integration and connectivity, especially effectiveness and the response and the quick delivery to market? We're talking about
especially
like manufacturing. Now we are in the digital age where it's about scheduling demand, is about manufacturing on demand,
so
all those things.
It's interesting you mentioned that because the automotive industry right now is ripe for disruption, and that disruption is coming from where they least expect. So you have Google, you have Amazon, you have even Facebook are starting to look at driverless cars, AI-enabled transportation, and that's really making organizations like the Nissans, the Chryslers, the Fords a bit jittery. And so we're seeing a shift from just looking at services they can add on to their manufactured services to a total revamp of industrialization. So we're seeing more additive manufacturing, things like 3D printing. We're seeing 3D manufacturing. We're seeing human-less drones. We're seeing human-less manufacturing plants. And actually, there is a Chinese manufacturing company, an automotive company that at the moment have built a humanless automotive plant. Across the value chain, there is no human intervention. What they're now doing is offering that as a service, automated industrialization as a service to other companies who want to build their cars much faster and with a lower cost compared to their own in-house production facilities. So we're seeing a huge shift to industrialization of IoT, industrialization of data, industrialization of manufacturing through things like 3D printing and through internet-enabled manufacturing, especially robotics.
If I go to Admire, what's your thought, especially from the financial industry? I know that financial industry is heavily tech reliant and is very heavily regulated. Are you likely to see a huge shift in terms of technology adoption, moving away from face-to-face services and all those? Or what's your thought?
So I would say that, all in all, one of the industries that has been at the forefront of technology adoption or innovation has actually been the banking industry. People might not see it that way, but that's the reality. Especially, for investment banks, and think of electronic trading, think of all the other back end processes that were happening in the back end before it is released to the public. But what has been at the play of people's minds has been the technology that they deal with, i.e. from a consumer banking perspective. That said, what this has enabled, I think it is much of a consumer behavior change. Customers now have become much more comfortable to transact digitally than what they have never been able to do in the past. So it has accelerated a lot. Then the second element is actually around payments. Like I think it was Sisu was rightly saying that there's been a lot of adoption of e-commerce now. If you had a mom and pop shop, corner, whatever, everybody is trying to go e-commerce. And what that brings is that it brings payments integration. So there is a lot of focus from banks to offer those payment platforms, which again is very good for banks. They do very well in that light. One thing that I would want to say as well is, which Siso touched on slightly, was around cybersecurity. What COVID has done, it is pretty much it's a heaven for cyber criminals. I'll characterize it to you in this way. What was happening before COVID is that you had gold that was being transported in armored vehicles with high security. And then it was being stored in vaults, okay? But then suddenly, boom, COVID came. Everybody is now working from home, and people are doing everything digitally as much as they possibly can. I would characterize that to now, that gold is now gold that is being transported using black taxis, and people are now keeping their gold under their pillows. So if you are in the business of bank robbery or gold robbery, there's no better time than this. But unfortunately now, we are so naive and unaware of it. The risk has gone, I think, 1,000 times high of cyber security, of cyber risk at the present moment, whether enterprise or P2P or whatever. So I'm not sure of the solutions that are coming up now, but the security is just mind-boggling. The risk rather is mind-boggling at the moment.
Yeah. I know you specialize in the growth hacking, which I understand probably is one of those area, hacking, testing, whatever. But of course, do you believe, or maybe from your experience with the COVID-19, like where you said that is a increased cyber security, especially some of the discussion that has been coming up in our previous panels is the people working from home, data protection, it has been a challenge because when you're working in an office, you can control the environment and you can control your internet gateways and all. But if you are working from home, certain homes the security is not well controlled, or you don't know who's in that home. Do you think this is going to accelerate cyber attack and this data loss or data issues with data protection?
So accelerate is an understatement. I would want to have a better word than that. See, any cyber risk expert will tell you that 90% of cyber risk is actually human. That's where the penetration happens. Right. Now, if I'm
Human
in my
error.
office, if I'm in my office building, I've got a pass that I have to take, go in the office, I cannot carry a USB and things like that and all that. But suddenly now I'm in my home, I'm in my local Wi-Fi, it's not encrypted, it's not secured, maybe I've not even changed the password since I just got the router. Right? So it means that anybody can come in right now. Anybody. Yeah. So you can imagine, a bank person, customer service, that when they are taking your details and their call, they're taking it from their home. And when you're giving them, and when you're talking to some of these e-commerce shops or whatever, and you're giving them credit, your credit card number, you're handing it over to somebody who is in comfort of their house. At work, at least there are CCTV cameras, their colleagues, there are people who are watching. Here, no. So if they're a person with bad intentions, they can just take the number, your number, and do whatever they want to do, and they can give it to the next door person, and stuff can happen. So this is uncharted, and the risk, I cannot imagine, I cannot quantify. It's just a massive tsunami. That's all I can say. I'm sure other panelists can share their insights on this.
I wanted to add to that many people think that cyber attacks are like highly sophisticated, carried out by people in a basement in China with like loads of years of experience in hacking. No, a lot of this stuff is actually through emails, like clicking on links, people setting up websites like WordPress sites, and there being a vulnerability and not covering it, right? Simple things like a password or changing the password on your standard login to your router. Like things like this are very simple, and the people that are exploiting it, they're not super geniuses. They're just doing really basic things. And as we all now working at home, we're now exposed to all of these criminals that are taking advantage of our lack of awareness.
Chooks, what's your
And
thought?
it's also looking for the weakest link. So when you look at the value chain of a transaction for any organization, especially in payments, it's about finding the weakest link. Because when you do things like penetration testing and security analysts look at how can this system be hacked, the first thing you look at is where is our weakest link? Is it in the login of that information? Is it in the authentication? Is it in the passing of that data? Is it in the storing of that data? Is it in the encryption of that data? And it's a point I made earlier that organizations often overlook encryption because to them it's not as important. They have that data on their systems. Now that people are at home and they have to use cloud-enabled systems, or they have to store it in use other workarounds or store it in different ways. Where are those weak points that these people can exploit? And they're not geniuses, as Cecil said. It's just about understanding what is that past purchase for a customer. When I want to either log in and check my account, or I want to pay for something using PayPal, and pinpointing those weak links and then being able to exploit.
So we for this uncharted territory, and for businesses or people listening on there, we have quite a few people listening, and probably they are looking for key takeaway how they can stay cyber secure. What will be the best practice considering maybe you have people working for you at home without all the leverage of controls and things like that? What would you advise? What would be the best thing, best recommendation with all this situation now we just talked about, especially people taking payment, they are home. I know a few banks, some of the workforce has been working from home, and we don't, quite a lot of businesses have declared they are not going to resume work as normal for the next 6 months. What's your advice for a business that is looking to cyber proof their digital operation and I don't know.
There's no hard and fast rule, but the main thing there is they need to be security conscious, right? As a one of those leadership behaviors you see in organizations that are very security conscious is that they take security importantly, they treat it importantly, and they take it seriously. You've got to be thinking about security for any product that you come out with. The first thing you think about is your customer, right? The second thing you think about is security. And if you don't play security at that level, you will miss something. And if you miss something, there is financial and reputational damage further down the line.
What's your thought, Adma, in terms of key takeaway how businesses, especially small businesses, do not have huge resources to install some of those capabilities? I know you guys, you are fortunate to work in high corporate and they have a lot of resources to maybe implement. For small and medium businesses with limited capabilities, what would be the best practice to adopt and to continue, especially working this uncharted territory at home and remotely with minimum controls?
I think one of the first things that any person, individual, or small business operator should be aware of and take seriously is to understand that they hold. So if you understand the value of the data and information that is in your custody, it will help you to think carefully on how to protect that data. So if you think that you have got an invaluable thing and you just leave it idle, anybody can come and pick it. That's what exactly happens. So do you want to be, you obviously for you, you might not come out in the headlines if there is a security breach that has happened. Your risk profile is not as high, but if you understand the value of the data, at least it can motivate you to do the corrective action. And in terms of what exactly you need to do, you know, Chooks and Cecil, they just, told us simple things that we should do. They are not sophisticated things. I would just characterize it I would say, you need to practice cyber hygiene. Just like your dentist tells you that if you don't want your teeth to decay, make sure you brush your teeth after every meal. And it's something that you just have to do consistently and religiously. And you find out that you reduce maybe 90% of the risk just by practicing cyber hygiene.
Yeah. Cecil, what's your thought?
Yeah, I agree with Chucks. There isn't like an all-in-one kind of advice that you can give someone, because I've seen some pretty sophisticated emails coming through to me, looking as if it came from my colleague, and I was just, I was just about to respond out of anger. For example, someone has sent me an email saying we've just lost £20,000 or something from this account. I'm just, what? Immediately responding. Then I realized, like, actually, why wouldn't you call me and tell me that? And then I look carefully at the email address it's from, and I realized that it's not from Hiberus.com. It's from Hiberus.com and then something else after. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like someone like me falling for that, very embarrassing, but we can all do it. So I think, adding on to Admire's cyber hygiene point, I would even go as far as saying cyber cynicism, right? So be cynical of everything that you get that is not expected in your inbox, or someone telling you something. Just be very cynical. Some practical steps that I would advise people are always use two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication is where when you're signing into a portal or email address or whatever, you need to have another item of yours that proves that you are who you say you are. It might be your mobile phone. So for example, you log into Tide's banking system, you put in your email and password, then they send you a code on your phone, and your phone is the second factor, as opposed to, you know, you having just a password. You now have to have your phone and use that to verify who you are. So two-factor authentication is available on a lot of platforms out there, like Gmail. Many people don't use it because it harasses them every time they go into their email. But, you know, put that on, you'll be safer. And then the second thing is make sure your passwords are different. It sounds simple, but the moment someone has access to one of your, you know, private inboxes, and they can, you know, click forgotten password on any one of your sites that you use, then immediately all of the passwords come to that email address that has been hacked, or a reset button comes to that email address, and then they have access to everything. So I never use the same password on any single website, and I always kind of look at, for example, the first and second letter of a website and make a password based off of that. So, you know, always making sure there is a different password for everything you use. You remember that, you know, well, not you remember, but there's been so many hacks, like TalkTalk, for example. Everyone's account on TalkTalk got hacked. And I had a password that I was using there and for Amazon and also for Gmail. And I thought, actually, if my password here has been hacked, then everything has been hacked, right? So it's such a simple thing to do, and easy to implement. And my last point is keep your mobile phone and your email address absolutely safe. Like, you need to now see those as almost like your bank account. The amount of information that you have in there and control that those have on your life and your business, it's immense. And we've just gradually got to this point where now, when we make a transaction in a bank or at a shop, we now have to put our fingerprint on our phone, or, you know, sign into our phone. And these things are so important. I can't stress this enough, that your phone is now you. It's like a digital version of you that approves things. So keeping these things safe, even if it's, you know, not personal, if it's for your business phone, your personal phone, make sure it's safe and spend money making sure that it's safe. Otherwise, someone will take advantage of that and you'll have nothing.
If I take a step back, probably back to digitization, one of the key challenges that has been coming up is quite a lot of businesses have been forging ahead in terms of technology adoption and the integration, but they forgot people to also put the people at the heart of the technology. And you find quite a lot of businesses have a lot of sophisticated systems and whatever, but the people don't know how to use it, or what would be the best way to make sure that companies or businesses are digital strategy is around the people. I don't know who want to go there, because that's a big issue, especially with the current.
So are you talking more around the culture of the organization, or are you talking about putting the people at the heart of their digital transformation?
Yes.
Are you talking about customer?
No, more putting people at the heart of their digital transformation. You can be an employee or you are a customer at the same time, because you need to make sure that one of the challenges, like in the banking system, like Barclays has forged ahead and integrated a lot of digital solutions, but a lot of maybe customers are not very efficient, or they are not very tech savvy, or there's quite a lot of businesses also have a lot of employees who are not tech savvy, and during that digital transformation, you find they are being left behind.
So in terms of putting people at the heart of your digital transformation and making sure that you're taking them on this journey, there are two types of people every organization should worry about: the internal customers and the external customers. For your internal customers, we're talking about your culture, right? And this comes down to the digital leadership behavior that you're adopting as a leader in your organization, or as an employee of your organization. Are you becoming a learning organization? Right? Are you embedding feedback? Are you making sure that you're listening to the people on the ground? Because the people who interact with the customers are more important than the people in the boardroom. Your customer is king, right? And the people who understand your customer the best are the people who have the most value, because customer defines value. It's not the CEO, it's not the CDO, it's not the CXO. So how are you leveraging what those people understand from those customers in real time to create value for those customers? And one way to do that is to become a learning organization. Embed feedback loops. One thing I've seen work very well, even in small organizations, is suggestion boxes, right? Drop suggestion boxes all around the organizations. Please feel free to let us know what you want to see improved in the way we work. Another thing that I know is encouraging experimentation, right? Hackathons, innovation days. Small organizations do this a lot. Andela in Nigeria does this all the time. They run hackathons almost every month. I know small startups that participate in incubation days where they come together and discuss ideas, or work on something and then come up with a minimum viable idea, to see whether they can build that further. Encourage that kind of thinking in the organization. But it's not just at the periphery, right? Your HR, your core functions need to align to this culture of experimentation and learning by rewarding successes, but also recognizing failure. Companies like the Googles and the Netflix and the rest of them, they spend close to $1 billion failing just to get one thing right. And they're brave to invest that amount of money. Now, for a small organization, you don't have that kind of money. So what do? You experiment cheaply through design-led thinking, being able to understand your customer and seeing what does my customer want. How can you build something cheap enough for you to get feedback? The aim is not to sell to make money. The aim is to get feedback so I can improve that product. A lot of startups are adopting that mentality, and there are different methodologies out there you can use to do that: lean UX, design-led thinking, design-led strategy, and the rest of it. But the mindset is really, how do I get something out to the customer to gain feedback? My business outcome is tangible, credible, measurable feedback. Because that feedback, buried somewhere in that feedback, is your customer saying, these are the things I want. This mug is too big for me. If you can make the handle a little bit longer, that will be useful for me. That's valuable, credible feedback, because then that means the customer will pay for a mug with a longer handle. And customer's perception is the actual value. So something like that. In medium and large organizations, one thing I see that works well when you put your people at the heart of what you're doing is investing in proper productivity and collaboration tools, especially in large organizations where you find one department has a way of communicating, another department has a way of communicating. Investing in collaboration tools. It could be, for a startup, it could be Slack, right? For a big organization, it may be something like Confluence or Microsoft Teams, but making sure that you have a unified collaboration system that is your default is very important, because then that creates a more connected workforce. A more connected workforce, they act faster, they were able to share information quicker, and they were able to use that information. Another point I've seen work well is, especially in small organizations, is make sure the people you're working with understand the value chain. What is your value chain? Value chain is a set of activities from the very beginning to when it hits the customer. And in that value chain, the assumption is that every activity adds value that you quantify at a certain amount for the customer who pays money for you. And making that visible to the customer, a software developer who works somewhere in Durban or in Nairobi, who works for a large organization, without knowing how the code he's writing or the test scripts he's running impacts the customers outside, will not leave with a sense of pride that this job I do 9 to 5 on a daily basis actually impacts the Joe on the street. It makes a huge difference. So making that very visible, whether you're a small organization, whether you're a big organization, making sure that you're visualizing that value chain to your customers will leave them with a sense of achievement, a sense of pride, and they can actually feel connected to that customer impact. And that to me creates a much more better environment for your people in the organization. There is no hard and fast rule to this, but it's about hearts and minds, and it's about embedding the right behavior in the organization. If your contract says, certain metrics have to be achieved for you to be paid or for you to be promoted, but those metrics don't align with digital behaviors, then there is a huge disconnect. The way I've seen it work. Sorry, just the last point. The way I've seen it work well is when organizations reward people for collaboration, actually have tangible rewards for collaboration, you see a massive shift in how connected they are.
And of course, more productivity. Yeah. So, Adima, what's your thoughts in terms of businesses putting people at the heart of their digital transformation? What's your recommendation? What would be the best practice? Do you agree with Chooks, or do you have anything to add on that?
I so agree with Chooks, and I would say, like I highlighted earlier on, there cannot be digital transformation without people, because, like I gave my definition, that to me, digital is the convergence of people, processes, and the technology. That's what constitutes digital. And and for you to be able to go into that journey, you need to have a culture of humility. Okay, and humility, by I mean strategic humility, to accept that you don't have it all figured out, you don't know everything. That is what then makes you to be a learning organization. Talking to your customers, asking customer stuff as you iterate and develop continuously. So unfortunately, you'd find out that maybe the old industry, what I would define as the analog industry, we had a lot of what I would define as strategic arrogancy, that we figure out everything else and we give you whatever we think it is. That narrative has changed. If you are to be digital, truly digital, you'd find out that digital becomes a language that you use in the business, i.e. you won't need a chief digital officer, because you will be what they call a digital native organization. Look at Amazon, look at Facebook, look at Uber and all these other guys. They are digital at core. Digital is what defines them. That's who they are.
Cecil, what's your thought?
Yeah, so I spend a lot of time thinking about this because, my company, we just build tech and we do consulting on how to put tech into a business properly. And I think for me, the biggest difference that is made in terms of adoption is how the company looks at its employees that are going to be using their technology. Some companies look at their employees as people that should do what they are told. And some companies look at their employees as customers. And I find that the companies that look at their employees as customers, they approach their employees in the same way that they would approach external customers buying their product. They find out, what do you want? And what problems are you having? and they try and address the problems with the technology. They don't simply implement technology because this is newer and this is better. And, you know, as someone that is technology focused, I think that the new system that I'm implementing, you should just use it because it's a no-brainer. This is better than what you were using before. But for someone that is not technology focused, to them, it's like, you're changing my job. You're making me less efficient. You're controlling me. All of these things, they're negative things. So you have to see your customer, so your employee as a customer, find out what they want, what pain problems they're having. Are you copying and pasting too much? Are you going into one system and then going into another system and certain information is not available between the two systems? Because once you find out the pain and the problem, you're able to articulate to the employee the benefits of changing the system or transforming. And once you get your communication on the transformation right to start with, they will buy into it and they will actually push you to implement it, right? So the first part is that communication about what's in it for them and how is it going to make their lives better. And once you get going with your transformation, as Chuks was saying, feedback is so important. You need to constantly poll the people that you are doing this change to and notice when they have problems, and you know, keep your door open to them so that they can advise you that, hey, look, you're going wrong here. They need to feel comfortable saying that to you. And that will create almost like an agile process where you are building, getting feedback, building, getting feedback, building, getting feedback, all the time, refining what you are doing. It's not going to be sort of a install and then get the feedback afterwards. You have to do it in stages. And this is going to take longer, but ultimately, if you want them to adopt the technology, as Stephen Covey says, with people, slow is fast and fast is slow, right? You have to be slow. And I know that's not what many people want to hear, but this is the reality of things. I will caveat that with saying, there is a subset of millennials and younger that just love new technology, and this somehow doesn't apply sometimes to them because they just want to use new technology. It doesn't matter what, they just want Slack, or they want to use Zoom and stop using Skype and Cisco. So it really differs when you're looking at the much younger generation, but where you have an older workforce, you have to go really, really slow.
No, yeah, you're right. I think probably I think a few questions came out through some of our audience who registered. One is in terms of looking at especially the World Bank ranking, World Economic Forum. I know they've been mapping out skills of the future, and 10, I think 7 or 8 out of 10 are within digital centric laws. Are you likely to see the continuation in terms of digitization making jobs obsolete, or what's your thought? Because the government and some of the organization arguments that some of digitization also is creating new opportunities. But what's your thought from your experience, especially automation now with robotics and everything?
So for me, digitization, I would actually like it not to be a term, because digital is a tool that can be used to do something, whether it's you know, reducing the amount of time in processes, or improving communications, or outsourcing intelligence. I think there are smarter ways that we could do absolutely everything that we do in our lives. I give you an example. We are, as Hiberus, transforming the agricultural sector in the UK. We're enabling farmers to transport their animals around using a system that is sort of like Uber. It's not exactly like Uber, but it's sort of like it. And what this is eliminating is paper wastage that is used to document the movement of animals. And yeah, and phone calls as well. And there's loads of errors in this system that is being used right now. People call what we are doing digital transformation, but I just see it as improving and making the process more efficient. Yes, less people will be needed in terms of jobs to actually carry out the process. But what we see when we implement this process is that there are a lot more opportunities that can be taken advantage of. And it's simply about retraining people up to understand how to take advantage of those opportunities in data and analytics, in improving workflow processes, in actually engaging with customers more, and finding out new problems and refining the approach to that. I do see that as very, very important. So yeah, I think digitalization, as you say, it will continue, and there's still a lot of opportunity out there, and I don't think we've scratched the surface, because the organizations that you see, like Facebook, like Uber, like eBay, they got big off just allowing people to communicate better. But I haven't yet seen a massive company that has got big off AI or machine learning. That's the next wave of big companies, and that's when I think we are going to start seeing, real change, and as you say, digitization in our lives.
Yeah. Chooks, what's your thought in
So,
terms?
so just to add to that, I'm a bit more optimistic about the future of the workforce and labor, because I think we're moving towards the creative environment where we have knowledge workers now. We're moving away from just physical workers to knowledge workers. And we're seeing a lot more people who are able to work across three major areas. One is the customer. The more the customer of today, the digital customer, is very, very engaged, right? They're very channel agnostic. They don't really mind how they're connecting, mobile, tablet, if it's on their laptop, if it's from an internet-enabled device like a Chromecast or something. They don't care. They just want whatever they want yesterday. And so you're going to have people who are going to support them across those different channels and across those journeys. And that would lead to a different type of workforce. We've seen the rise of the marketer, right? Back in the day, the marketer was seen very differently, but now marketers are an essential cog in the wheel through which you're able to reach and engage your customers. So customers would lead to a different type of profession that would spring up. Creating content is key as well. So you're going to have a lot of individual content creators, some of them freelance, some of them working across organizations, and also data, right? 20 years ago, the software developer was extinct or never existed, rather. But now you have software developers everywhere. And now the new software developer is a data scientist, is a data engineer, the data analyst. You're going to have a new growth of robotic experts, robotic analysts, robotic engineers who are going to be implementing, driving, maintaining, operationalizing robotic process automation of the future as IoT, as internet starts to industrialize, just like Facebook has, I don't know, thousands of software engineers, thousands of data analysts. So will the likes of the manufacturing companies have thousands of robotic analysts who are looking after, who are operationalizing different. So I think the future is bright. There's just going to be a huge shift from physically enabled work to knowledge-enabled work.
I think another just last two questions before we wrap up, and the other question is about the Industry X. I know we are moving from Industry 4.0, which is more automation, to X, which is more about connectivity to everything. And the question is the Industry X likely to actually expose more cybersecurity because you're losing a lot of control and there's so much connectivity. And I know working in the automotive industry, we moved from vehicle to vehicle connectivity to vehicle to grid to vehicle to mobile to everything. You find you are like, for example, your mobile phone is connected to everything. Is it likely to increase cyber security and also take away control from the consumer?
It's quite a funny one for me because professionally I'm all about connectivity, but personally I find it very intrusive. So in my personal capacity, I don't like devices that want to take as much data from me as possible. Maybe that's just because I have a bit of cyber cynicism, as Admire mentioned. But what you're going to see in the future is greater security threats, greater penetration, greater lack of understanding of authorization and data enablement structures. Because as these systems are being created, as these trends become more and more, we are going data transfer, data migration, data travel is going to be seamless, and people are going to plug holes, right? Any cybersecurity expert will tell you it's all about the loopholes. It's all about the weak spots. Forget about how big or how monstrous it looks. It's just finding one weak spot, like Hush Puppy did, or like or hackers do, and leveraging that weak spot to be able to just cash out as it seems. And to me, one key takeaway that whether you're a small organization or big organization, you can look at is making sure that you're encrypting your data as much as possible.
Yeah.
So minimizing access points and gateways.
Yeah.
So if you have a mug that you can connect to your phone and the rest of it, that's all well and good. But how many access points are there? How many gateways are prevalent there? And this is where if you have security as a strategic a value in your organization, whether you're a startup or a big organization, you're constantly going to be thinking, is this connection secure? Is this data transfer secure? Is this internet-enabled device secure? And if you look at it from that perspective, you'd always find loopholes. You'll always find ways to improve the security. But one thing that you can take away is encryption is the be-all and end-all if you want to be more security conscious. You have to encrypt your data.
Yeah.
And encryption is all about basically anonymizing that data or deleting it in the true form which you collected it. It will never return to that form. I will never know your name to be Eugene. I will know you as B1, B2, B3, XZ, whatever. And I think as it stands, that's the most secure way organizations can be able to protect themselves in the face of cybersecurity threats.
Adima, what's your thoughts? Two questions. Maybe leading up to what Chooks was talking about. What's your thoughts in terms of Industry X? So we're moving away from Industry 4, which is about automation, to now connectivity to everything. Is it likely to increase more cyber threats and also people losing control of their technology or their? And then the second question I think was directed to you is about digital currency, especially someone who's from the financial sector. Why are we not seeing much cryptocurrency or digital currency being adopted in the UK?
Right. So I think Chuck summed it up all when it comes to industrialization X, as you call it, right? Where it's everything being connected. I'm sure the best way to characterize it is look at what has happened with COVID. If COVID had happened in, say, 50 or 60 years ago, it would not have spread the way it did. Simply why? Because the world was not as connected as it is today. The fact that we are now in a global village, super connected everywhere, it made the virus to spread across the globe super fast. That's as simple as it gets. And then the other way to look at it as well is to look at the financial crisis of 2008. Because our banking system globally is so interconnected, one stress in one geography spreads like wildfire the rest of the world. So the more connected we are, the more we are at risk, and that's inevitable. So one would then probably rely on more of a comprehensive regulatory environment around that, and how best we need to mitigate those risks. So policy decision makers should start thinking about all those things now, rather than to be reacting after the fact, as we always are good at. That's my answer to my contribution to the first question. And then around the second bit on digital currency. The reality of the matter is that since we moved from the gold standard, the majority of the currency that is actually out there is digital. And not a lot of people actually understand that, how it actually works. Money in circulation is not the paper money just that you touch. It's zeros and ones. When the Bank of England issues notes, and if they want to buy, if they issue bonds, what is happening is that it's not necessarily physical money that is being printed. It's money that is being generated out of a computer. And then there's a promissory note, to say, look, we are guaranteeing that this thing has got value because it has been issued by the Bank of England. So digital currency in itself is not a big issue. What the issue is who is the guarantor or the issuer of that currency. I think that's where the problem is. If it is Libra or Libra or whatever for Facebook, who is actually the issuer of that currency? Why should we rely and depend on it? If it is Bitcoin, why should we rely on it? Who is the store of the value at the end of the day? Governments have realized that it is inevitable that they will, if they don't do that, there will be alternatives, which is why now you're seeing governments warming up to the fact of them being of cryptos or digital currencies is it way out to the community. So I think it is inevitable that we will ultimately have it, but the question is who will be issuing that currency? Is it going to be a true decentralized thesis that is being pushed by Bitcoin and the likes of the others, or we are going to have, again, central banks and governments around the world being the issuers of that currency? I see it more as central governments issuing that currency because you still need to have somebody guaranteeing. Okay, there's a bit of rebound. Okay. Yeah, so that's, for me, that's where the issue lies. Who is the issue of that currency, and who is the back of that currency at the end of the day? From the time we moved from the gold standard, things have changed, and now that distribution of that currency has changed. The beauty though that it might have, there'll probably like to be much more transparency around what will be circulating out there, because at the moment different governments can just print out stuff as and when they need to.
Thank you. I think unfortunately we ran out of time, but Dennis, I don't know if you have anything to add on just to wrap up. I think if in the case we covered all the questions, I see people have been busy answering some of the questions on the chat. I don't know what you're saying.
No. I couldn't possibly add anything. It's been a fantastic discussion. I concur with virtually everything that you guys have been talking about. I come at this not from a very technical point of view, but from both an academic point of view, as someone who's researching around innovation, digitization, entrepreneurship, but also as someone who works with startups and young people, both here and in Africa. And everything I was going to say, you guys have touched on it from a practical point of view. But suffice to concur that one, technology is an enabler. And most often you find companies going focused on, and I think what this was Admire, I can't remember who, focused on the technology as opposed to what is the purpose of the technology. And the technology doesn't have to be complicated, sophisticated. I find that even this, once you start with the end in mind, who is this customer, what problem are they trying to solve, then you will most likely find that you have a simple solution. The other thing I noticed is that almost every business now should be thinking digital fast. If anything that COVID has demonstrated has been that businesses that didn't have a digital strategy have struggled. The likes of Primark have really struggled. And some of those were able to justify saying that, you know, a company like Primark, digital strategy has a cost implication. And given the type of client that they serve, the amount of money that is involved in terms of the value of each of those products, is it of any cost to start adding postage and then returns and having all these? No, so they decided from a strategic point of view that they were not going to do it, but they couldn't have anticipated that COVID was going to come and almost wipe them out. If it stayed on for, you know, one whole year, they would have been in trouble. Then maybe the last thing is about, and I see a lot of this in the fintech space, where you see young, new, agile startups, banks like Monzo taking the fight to big banks like Barclays, which have legacy infrastructure and huge costs to, you know, to deal with that legacy infrastructure, where you have branches across all the streets, you have staff around the whole world, and these guys show up and say, actually, you don't need all that. You can operate in a more nimble, smaller way. I find that, and some of the articles I've been reading, smaller businesses, perhaps younger businesses, so to speak, seem to have adopted much better because they're more flexible, they're more fluid, they're more agile, they're experimental in the way in which they offer solutions. They are not bound by bureaucracy. So I think whatever businesses are doing, whatever they have been doing during COVID, they should expect to be doing those more often. Otherwise, they will be swept by another wave that we don't know. You know, with the fights that are happening between China, US, with Brexit, this is not the end of this digital discussion. But thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been a fantastic discussion.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I look to have taken 5 minutes extra, but it's been amazing, quite a lot of learning in terms of how digital is transforming our life, business as usual, customer experience, and of course, still more challenges than chartered territories. Thank you to Cecil and the Chooks and the Admire for sharing your knowledge and your time for joining us. And we hope you found it, the discussion, insightful and informative and more thought-provoking. And we would like to welcome you in the future to come and share more in terms of how we continue to see changes in the market as part of the digitization. So thank you so much and have a good evening. It was been nice having you. We'll share this, we'll write up the summary and then we'll be sharing the report of some of the discussion in terms of, and let us know if you have any topics that you would like us to cover in the future.
Thank you, guys. Have a
Thank
good
you.
Thank you
It's
so
a
much.
pleasure.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you. Take care, guys.